Good morning. It's me again. Oh, just sitting here thinking about which one we're going to talk about today. And today I think we're going to talk about the Boy Scouts. I was young and I was very vulnerable because during this time I had no mom, I had no daddy, and my cousin convinced me that, I ought to go and join the Boy Scouts. Well, the Boy Scouts met on Saturdays. And, I thought it would be fun. And like I said, my cousin, he was older than me. He had his own car. He stopped and got me, and I'd take my two brothers with me, and some of the mothers were there, and they would take Marvin and Eric into this room and let them play while I was, doing the Boy Scout thing, and anyway, I was in the Boy Scouts probably 2 weeks before I got molested the first time. We went on a camping trip out at the lake, and a lot of the dads, and they come, and so we went to Douglas Lake, and we were there, and it was about, I don't know, I can't tell you exactly the time, but I would say it's probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock, because everybody else was asleep, and my cousin and the troop leader decided that it was time for me to get up and go to their tent. My two baby brothers were asleep in my tent, and so they took me to their tent and made me perform oral and on both of them, and told me that this is my dues for being in the Boy Scouts, because I was the only one that had baggage that they had to really deal with. So, I was upset, I was hurt, and they told me if I told anybody that they would kill my whole family. Now this video is going to be hard. And it's going to be about as hard as the one about the baby. So we come back home from the trip. My cousin, he brought me back home. Well, brought me and my brothers back home. And I dropped us off, and he told us, he said, now remember what we said. This doesn't leak out, or we'll kill your family. Well, during the time that my mother was gone and stuff, they started having meetings during the weeknights. So it was a couple times a week. So they would come and get me and Marvin and Eric and take us over. And like I'd say, some of the mothers would they had other younger children while their older boys was in Boy Scouts. So they would take Marvin and Eric in the rooms, let them play with the toys and stuff. And this is at Pibe 85 School. And, well, I was in there with the teacher, with the troop leaders and all the other Boy Scouts. Well, Had one night at Pipe 85, all the kids are gone except for me and Marvin and Eric. Well, Marvin and Eric was playing in the room, so they took me in the bathroom, made me perform oral on them both again at the school. Then took me back home. Well, this went on, and it was ongoing like that with my brothers for probably, well, till my dad got us. And then when I would go to Boy Scouts. After my dad got us, I would go to the Boy Scouts, and then it never really happened at the school again, because the janitor worked there at night after Boy Scouts and stuff, and I think from what I gathered was while they were making me doing that, they almost got caught. So it started happening at my cousin's house on the weekends. Because, see, once my dad got us, my mom moved, and nobody knew where she was at. So my great-grandmother and great-grandfather, Mom and Pop, talked Dad in, instead of us going and visiting Kathy on the weekends, we could come up to their house every weekend. Well, my cousin lived right next to him. And he would call up there and he would say, Pop, send Johnny down here. So Pop would say, okay, they're wanting you down there. So I would go down there, and it got to where first it was just my cousin, and then the troop leader come over there on the weekends, and it got to where they were not only making me perform oral, but they were inserting objects inside my backside. And this went on up until the time I was 14 years old. I would have to perform oral. I would have to take foreign objects in my backside. I would have to do basically whatever they wanted me to do, because I thought I was protecting my family. Now, my two brothers were at Mom and Pop's, and I realized just how easy it would be for them to get them, because Mom and Pop were elderly, and it wouldn't be hard, in my mind, it wouldn't be hard for them to take them out to get to my brothers. So that's what was going through my mind. I thought I was protecting people, and so when I got 14 years old, the troop leader brought this big old thing over there, and he had it all lubed up. And he said, now we've got you broke in real good. He said, we're going to try this. I'm like, no, we ain't doing this. Yeah, we are. We're doing this. No, we're not. We got into a big old argument. Well, I went to fight. And I fought. Yeah, I took a beating. I did, but I fought back. And it didn't happen that weekend. Then the next weekend, it was the same thing. They come down there, he had that thing, and they was wanting to insert it in me, and I fought. And no, it didn't go in. It went on for about 4 or 5 weekends like that. And finally I told him, I said, I'm done. And I uh, they were all standing there, and Donnie, well, he was behind me. The troop leader was in front of me. I turned around and hit my cousin in the eye. When I did, he screamed out, and the troop leader turned around and I hit him square in the nose, and I splattered his nose. And when both of them were moving around, I took off running, and I said, this is not going to ever happen again. I said, you touch me again, you call for me to come down here again, I'm calling the police. Well, we lived in a city, and Robbie Fox was a chief of police, and my dad knew Robbie Fox, and they knew he did. So, needless to say, that it never did happen again. But when I tried to go back to the Boy Scouts, because I enjoyed the Boy Scouts, when I tried to go back to the Boy Scouts, they wouldn't let me in. They told them I was no longer a member. And my dad was wondering what I had done wrong that they kicked me out of the Boy Scouts, and he kept questioning me and questioning me and questioning me. And I told him, I kept telling him, Dad, I don't know. I haven't done anything. I've done everything that they told me to do. He's like, well, they don't just kick you out of the Boy Scouts for no reason. He said, you've done something pretty bad, or they wouldn't have kicked you out. And it went on like that for a while. My mom asked me, and I told her the same thing. My mama asked me, and I told her the same thing. And then they got Pop and Mom to ask me, and I told them the same thing, you know. And I really, honestly, I didn't know why they kicked me out of the Boy Scouts. I didn't know that because I had quit giving in to them that they were going to kick me out of the Boy Scouts. But I didn't tell nobody. I never told anybody. And then when I was 53 years old, my dad had come over here, and we were working on a farm down in Wise. We were clearing property. And we were sitting here talking. And they was talking about somebody being molested and all that. I looked at Dad and I said, I never told you this, Dad, but I was molested when I was in the Boy Scouts. And Dad looked at me, he said, what? I said, you remember your mom, my mom, Papa, Mom kept asking me why they kicked me out of Boy Scouts, and I told you I didn't know because I was so young at that time I couldn't realize what happened. He said, yeah, I remember that. I said, it's because of my cousin, the Boy Scouts, and we all got into this big fight. And I told them I was done, and if they laid another finger on me or called me down there again, I was going to call the police on them. And I said it was the following week that when you took me to the Boy Scout meeting that they told me I was no longer there. And I said, if you remember, they made you had to go get me some clothes because I had to turn my uniform and all that stuff in. He said, yeah. I said, well, they completely erased me from the Boy Scouts. You know, they took my uniform, they took everything. I never had nothing to prove that I was in the Boy Scouts. But, you know, I thought I was protecting people by not saying nothing. Now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have stopped it. And from what I gathered, they got another young boy in the troop that they was molesting him. And, they never did get caught. But the good thing about it now is both of them are dead. My cousin, he got hooked on drugs and it finally killed him. And the troop leader, he got cancer. And he died a horrible death. And it was painful and it was slow. So it just shows you that you don't get away with nothing. God will punish you for what you've done. And, I take this as, God got revenge on what God got revenge on them for what they had done to me. Now, I'm not saying these stories for pity. I'm not saying these stories for sympathy or anything like that. No, I don't need no sympathy. I don't need the pity. I'm just saying this is as a warning. If you've got kids and they start acting strange or something, don't give up on them in case they're being molested. Push them, and make them tell you what's wrong, because it may really surprise you to find out exactly what is going on in their life. It may surprise you to find out that they may be like me, trying to protect their family. And that's not a life for any child. So I just wanted to share that with y'all today. And, like I said, don't feel sorry for me, because that was years and years ago. It's done, it's over with. And, but God has got me past it. And no matter what trials and tribulations are in your life, if you keep the faith, God will get you past them too. And that's it for today, folks. I'm going to say goodbye and God bless.